Greetings to one and all. Today really is Super Wednesday. Okay, and we're on Wednesday, the 7th day of Nisan. I think this is no April Fool's joke, but I think we're on April 1st, and that ain't no joke. Hope that everyone's keeping their spirits up. And this just came to me this morning, so I wanted to share it. I think that it's very important to get this idea out and to utilize the time and the date. The title of our class today is Please Join the Fight in Stopping Corona, April 8th, 2020. We've seen all over the place. I'll just give a few examples because there's too many. Trump on March 17th banned gatherings more than 10. The governor of Kansas, Governor Kelly, banned gatherings over 10 people. In Colorado, they issued limits of gatherings no more than 10 people. Arkansas banned gatherings over 10 people, and the beat goes on, and the list goes on. Now, this is very interesting because we know that in Judaism, 10 is a big number. 10 represents a quorum. 10 represents the divine presence, divine holiness, spirituality. It's a really amazing thing. The corona and the 10 limiting no more than 10 people, which is tremendous, because the fact that we know that when God created the world, he used his Eser Sfirot, the 10 Sfirot, or the 10 divine energy channels, which he used to create the world. So the 10th Sphira, 10th sphere, is Keter, is the crown. And in Latin, corona is the crown. It's in fact, if you say corona, crown, you hear the same word. So nothing unusual here. So what we really have going on is the battle of tens. The battle of tens. And I'll explain how that's connected to April 8th, 2020, or the 14th day of Nisan. So here's where we go. The Arizal in Pri Etz Chaim, the book Pri Etz Chaim, Gate 21, and chapter 5. The Arizal tells us that on the 13th day of Nisan, this year the 7th of April, towards the late afternoon, we gather together 10 morsels of chametz bread, pasta, and we wrap them up and we spread them around the house, preparing for the evening, which is the 14th. In the Jewish calendar, the day does not change at 12 midnight. It changes when when the stars come out. So on the 13th and towards the late afternoon, we prepare these 10 morsels. We hide them in the house. On the 14th, when we come back from the evening prayers, we begin searching for this unleavened bread, these 10. So why 10? So the Arizal tells us an amazing lesson. The reason why we have 10 morsels is because in the world there are 10 heads, leaders, or characterization of evil in the world. 10 head figures of evil, of impurity. And in order to fight against that spiritual enemy, then therefore we take 10, because it's the battle of tens. So we take 10 morsels which represent the 10 holy spiritual levels of the world, the 10 divine energy channels of the world. So it's the battle of the 10. So when we search for the Chametz, which represents evil, also on a personal level in our hearts and in our deeds and in our words, but also on a national level, fighting against evil regimes, evil nations, evil individuals. So we take our ammunition, which is the 10 morsels of purity, and this will enable us to fight against the 10 levels of impurity in the world. Okay, that's step number 1. Step number 2, we have a classic book called the Kav Yashar, and it was written by Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Kadenover. He lived from 1655 to 1712. Two of his sisters of Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch were murdered in 1648 when there was an uprising of, may his memory be erased, Hmelnytsky in the Ukraine, where tens or hundreds, thousands, different opinions of Jews were murdered during the Kozak Hmelnytsky uprising. So in this tremendous book, if I gave the list of what tremendous sages have said about this book, the greatest of all of our sages, the Chatam Sofer, the Chida, and the list goes on. They just have tremendous, holy words about this book. And he writes there in chapter 89, Kav Yashar, there are 102 Kav, Kuf Bet, 102 two gates in the book, or chapters. This is the 89th. And there it says the following. I have a tremendous Kabbalah, a tremendous tradition passed down to me from generations and generations and generations. Okay, this is the Kav Yashar talking. This is what he writes in his book. And he says that it is very important to place 10 morsels of bread in 10 different places in your house, because this connects us to the 10 plagues that hit Egypt. And it also connects us. These 10 morsels, which represent the 10 levels of spiritual purity, of goodness in the world, these morsels have power. They have power with our intentions and our prayers on this day, April 8th, 2020. It has power to bring upon the oppressors of Israel. This is what he wrote 400 years ago. To bring upon the oppressors of Israel. And then he brings 10 different expressions of destroying evil people, individuals, and nations, those that oppress, hate, fight against Israel, the Jewish people, or the land of Israel. It's an amazing thing. And he brings 10 different expressions, like it's a thesaurus of expressions. So we're told in black and white here how important this ceremony is coming up As I said, it begins on the 13th or the 13th of Nisan in the late afternoon, which is the 7th of April, and continues into the night, into the 8th of April 2020. Okay, moving right along, but I just found this. This is the book. Hope you can see that. Kava Yashar Hashalem. This is the special book, which I just read from. Okay, moving right along. This is to be found in the famous book, the Shem Shmuel, on page 106, or in the Haggadah of 238 sages, Talmidei Chachamim, and that would be on page 90. Listen to this amazing stuff. There it's written the following. We have a custom to place 10 morsels of chametz and hide them around the house. That is because on the 13th day of Nisan, in the time of Purim, there was a decree by Haman to destroy and annihilate the Jewish people. That was on, once again, Nisan. The lots were tossed on the 13th day of Nisan. It fell 11 months later. But the decree, the falling of the lot, that took place on the 13th day of Nisan. And therefore, what do? On the 13th day of Nisan, every year, towards the end of the afternoon, we take these 10 morsels of chametz, unleavened bread, spread around the house, hide them, and then at night, on the 14th, we go and then we gather them up, and in the morning on the 14th, we burn the unleavened bread, the chametz. So, once again, why? What's the process here? The scribes that wrote down on the 13th day, actually on the 13th and 14th of Nisan, the scribes that wrote the decree to annihilate the Jewish people were none other than 10 sons of Haman that we saw later on were hanged on the 16th day of Nisan, a few days later. So once again we have the 10 sons of Haman, which represent the evil in the world, oppressors of the Jewish people, those that hate and want to eliminate and annihilate the Jewish people. So we take these 10 morsels of bread of chametz, which also represent haughtiness, and as we know, matzah is very, very humble, and it's not all puffed up. So we take 10 because of the 10 scribes that wrote to eliminate the Jewish people, and we take them and we burn these 10 morsels of bread on the 14th, April 8th, 2020. So this symbolizes the downfall of Haman and his 10 sons, which of course happened 2 days later. They were hanged in Persia. So it's an amazing thing. There's a tremendous fight here. 10 versus 10. Who's going to be victorious? And last but not least, we've had very interesting. We've had over the last couple of weeks, we've had decrees. The synagogues are closing down. In Israel went and they closed down the synagogues. And the synagogues represent, of course, the 10 men, the quorum of 10, representing the 10 levels of spirituality, of holiness. 10, especially this time of year. 10 representing the 10 plagues against the enemies of the Jewish people, the oppressors, those that hate us. The 10 miracles in Egypt that the Mishnah tells us in Pirkei Avot, in the Ethics of Our Fathers, or the 10 miracles that happened on the sea when the Egyptians, our enemies, were destroyed. So we see that the number 10 and the fight between good and evil, light and darkness, the spiritual, the holy, and the impure, it's all happening, especially right now, in our time, in the last 2-3 weeks. Purim and Passover, the times of miracles, the times of redemption for the Jewish people, as we discussed previously. So now, it's an amazing thing that the government has gone down and they closed synagogues. Not only did they close synagogues, but yesterday on Tuesday, we were told that you cannot even pray with 10 people outside. There very well might be a danger to go and have 10 people in a synagogue. That could be, because it doesn't matter if it's a synagogue or some other place, but if you put people in a small building or a closed building, you're asking for trouble. But what's the idea of not allowing 10 people to pray separated outside, open air, keeping their distance between others, having these quorums, having these prayers? This is really unusual. Let me tell you, I went to the store yesterday, the day that this news broke, that you were not allowed to pray outside anymore in a minyan, in a quorum. I happened to go, first time in about 3-4 weeks, I went to the supermarket for our family to shop for Passover. And let me tell you something. How can you compare going to a supermarket? You know how many people are passing with their carts right next to you, or you're walking down an aisle and you walk by a person and there, ain't no 6 feet separating us. Why is that allowed? Why are people allowed in a supermarket? Why are people allowed in a supermarket? Or why are people allowed in various jobs that are considered to be of utter importance, but to pray outside, open air, spaces between people, that is not allowed? There is some war here. The war of Corona. Corona is the crown. Crown is the 10th sphere, the 10th highest channel of divine energy. The Keter, the crown, the Corona. There's a war going on between 10 versus 10. The power of 10 of Judaism, of Torah, of purity, of goodness, against the impure, the culture, and the garbage of the nations. It's happening right in front of us. I wanted to read, let me just get it up here on the computer. It's well worth listening to this. This appeared in the Washington Post. Washington Post 10 days ago. Listen closely. Even if every other business was shut down, said Nicole Bryan, 33, a homeschooling mother of 5 who was at Spell's church Tuesday night when the police came, shouldn't the church be exempted? There was a time in our history when I feel like we had that religious freedom. Everything could have been closed, but people need to worship. Religion was top of the line because that was the original reason for the founding fathers coming here. She said on Thursday, the beauty of America is you can live your life based on what you prioritize as necessary. And we should be able today to do the same. That's an amazing thing that she's saying. What's priority? What businesses or various operations that are allowed? Unfortunately, there's a banner, there's a message that's going out to the world, to the people, that there are certain institutions like yeshivot, where they study the Talmud, or synagogues where we pray, and they are really not necessary. They shouldn't have a priority. But we know that these are things that keep the world going. So thank God people are able to learn, probably more now. They're able to learn by listening to classes, and I've heard from other people that there's a lot of traffic listening to classes, so that's good. But as far as, the praying outside and separated, that it's unfortunate that we're not looking as the prayers, the 10, as our priority, that this is a matter of life and death. Jewish prayer, Jewish learning is a matter of life and death. So please, this coming, it's coming, it's in a week from now, on April 7th and April 8th, 2020, on the 13th and 14th, when you go and search for the unleavened bread, for the chametz, for the evil. First we search inside of ourselves. We have so many things. This is the time. We have time. So this is the time to make corrections. What do I need to change? Myself. I have a lot. We have a lot. But also on a national level. And also when we're praying and we're checking and we say various prayers for the burning of the chametz, the unleavened, the haughty, the evil. Remember the things that we heard today in this class and include them and cry out to Hashem, please. We want to see the victory of the good of Torah, of the Jewish people, over the evil of the entire world. Stay safe.